Gambia we tamala, the fi amma mut fenen. Sama mam dana mo wanan, jamareka war. Nya papolo don bena, can dunya muna dara. Reo me sunyu reula, nyepa anda jog. Nung lenyan, jama sasa sunyu reu. Sapante te japante, moy sunyu waref. Burialenyo, gelenyan, nasama sunyu digante. Nyepa mangu te dono ben lolu la fi mami by you born. Nyepa mangu te dono ben ngijamu Gambia.
Jotali makas bilel tanghal masindal biway bonyi be nga nuyul masa papa way oyal ma aji wax ko mata nena awane ñu magal tobaski ji way genaaw elek noel su passé ba ñu tek ci ñaari semaine sang mari la tam lolu lañ fi xam ben baat lolu lañu am juróom ñaari nit ci ben bool lolu lañu xam ar jodoga tambi nang nuyul masa papa ankira jam bul ma jam jama lañ fi am amut hette amut diine lolu lañ fi bayyi won dama ne lolu lañ fi bayyi won
Good evening, everyone. Sorry for the late start. We're about 10 minutes, 10 minutes late. Sorry about that. I apologize. It's been a very hectic day today. Having to bring in live updates of the proceedings of the trial of Bob Keita and the state. Now, if you're only joining us, we're referring to the criminal trial that's ongoing between Babukar Bob Keita and the state of Gambia on a single count of rape. This matter has been ongoing for the past couple of years, and we're really at the tail end of this matter, dependent on what will be the outcome of what we all thought would have been known today. However, that was not the case. For some strange, weird reason, for some kind of twist that we all have been, we all are just really shocked that things turned out the way it turned out, where we are no better informed than we were yesterday. However, what I'll do is we'll just break down, go do a deep dive into what really transpired in the courts today. So I can see, just as I've been doing, and the reason why I keep doing this is not because of any other thing other than the fact that I have been told, I have been sent messages by various individuals that, okay, they follow my, I've been on Facebook for over 15 years. I've been on Facebook, I think since 2007 or something like that. I can't remember. You could check my Facebook. So people, I have a large following, and people follow me on that page, and I think they receive notification once I'm on live. However, this is the Melville Robertson Roberts Esquire page, which I'm using. So therefore, if you're watching this live, the only favor I'm asking of you as an audience is just to share the live video. That way, a lot of people can be aware of the live that is going on with regards to this analysis. So I'm just begging you. I see like over 400 people on now. So if I can have everybody, every single person just share the video, I'm sure it will reach the target audience that we want, so people can be aware, because I believe that what we're doing is quite effective towards ensuring that Bob Keita has a very free, fair, just, and transparent hearing. So please, if you could share, tag people so that they know that we are on. Now, today, basically, in the previous adjourned date, we were told that today the forensic expert, Superintendent Akan from Ghana, would actually be testifying, and of course through him, as I've explained before, we were expecting that the DNA results will be tendered into evidence through the expert witness in court. And of course, we had predicted that there won't be any issue of admissibility for the simple fact, when I say admissibility now, when you have a document in any court, in any legal proceedings, you just don't take that document and send it and say, okay, here it is. So because this is a document, or this is evidence, fine. No, the evidence has to be tested. It's not everything you can bring to court. So the courts would have to weigh the evidence. They would have to look at the evidence. And if the courts feel that, okay, this is something that we should, is part of this case, it's very important in the final determination of the case, then of course they will admit that evidence. So there's something called the admissibility test. Certain various things have been laid down where it will be looked at, and if it's admissible, following the Law of Evidence Act, then sure, that document would be admitted. So today, I had no issue with that. I knew the document would be admitted for the simple fact that the judge, the presiding judge, had mentioned before that this particular document was the court's document, and he even made he actually asked a question which was more of a rhetorical question. He was actually trying to buttress a point to the state prosecutor, where he said to the state prosecutor, were you the one that made the order for the DNA test? And of course, the state prosecutor said no, and he said, okay, well, that is the court, so this is his DNA test, it's the court's result, and therefore he made a ruling that the results would be read today, which was the next adjourned date, which was today, the 11th, that it would be read in open court just as it is done on American TV when they do paternity tests. I know a lot of people made references to this, and it was, it was very humorous, kind of aside as with regards to this whole proceedings. But he did say that it would be read in open court, and therefore, when today things unveiled the way it did, I certainly said to myself, definitely, 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 the presiding judge is keeping to form, he's keeping to his promises, keeping to his word. And indeed, this is going to be reality TV in America. The suspense was there. The entire country, everybody was on edge. I mean, people could not do anything. People that were working in offices were following the live updates. People that were outside of the Gambia, people were on the streets listening to radios and trying to be online to follow the different updates coming from online media. And so it was really a nation grappled with suspense, waiting and hoping that this results would be read, because the Bob Keita trial is I could say now with absolute confidence that there has not been in Gambia's history any legal proceedings, any court proceedings that has taken the attention of every single individual just as much as this case has done. Yes, we've seen cases where I could brand them as political proceeding, political cases, or cases that are politically motivated. We saw, of course, the UDP trial, criminal trial against the Public Order Act. Yes, we saw the outcome, and so, but this was a different atmosphere, and this is. I mean, people that were supporting the UDP or supporting that trial were people that could identify with the trial. They could identify through either political affiliation or some sort of affiliation or some sort of general concern that is politically motivated. However, this was a distinction. This is totally different. This is one guy, one simple unknown guy. He has no political clout. He does not hold any government positions. He's not super rich. Before this trial, he was not very well known, but for some strange, weird, unexplained reason, this trial has now gotten the attention of every single person from the state offices to the very bottom. Every single person. It does not matter what the political affiliation is. It does not matter how you are ethnically inclined. It does not matter how you're religiously dominated. It has cut across everything, virtually everything, and it has united a people in one single direction, and that is seeking for justice, and that is asking that justice prevail though the heavens fall. This is where we are. And so today, before I move further, I will invite just acknowledge Sister Nene Gomez. Sister Nene Frida Gomez is here, and of course we know Nene is like a sister to Bob Keita. She's been there from the very start. She's in court. She's just been phenomenal in what she does. So before I continue with the analysis, and before I will invite Nene substantively to contribute, I will just ask her to say a few words. But before I do that, just to say that we are expecting Attorney Sergio Barrow. He's going to join us for some it's just unfortunate because he's caught up in court because the times of his cases has been moved forward, so he's caught up. But he would be joining us hopefully if he can finish his court matters on time. But Nene, good evening, and thanks for joining me as usual. It's been a roller coaster ride. I know it's been so I don't get it how people would just be calling people now when everybody that I'm online and they're calling me. Sorry, so I just had to reject that call. But Nene, I'm happy that you're joining me, and we were all tense. We were all on edge, and I know definitely you were no exception to what was going on. But say a few words now. I'll go into the analysis. I'll just bring the breakdown. I know I've done a lot of live updates. I'll just summarize them really, really fast, and then we will go into the analysis of today's proceedings.
Good evening. Good evening to all the viewers, and of course to those who are going to be coming live to watch this video. It is indeed a pleasure to come back here and do the analysis as you always do, just to update the citizenry, especially those who have been keenly following this case out of interest, out of concern, out of sympathy, and out of humanliness and out of citizenry. To just want to see how this thing ends. At the end of the day, you've mentioned something yesterday very important. No matter how this case goes, it will be in the history books that lawyers, judges are really going to be making reference to in whatever they're doing in different cases. Yes, it was yet another marathon today. Interesting, George. You sit in court and you were so tense. You were at the same time you were frustrated, or maybe some people angry because of the way things are going. But nothing is within your control. You just sit there and cannot say anything else. You get to a point that you just want to shout or pull your hair, but you just can't because you are in a court that is governed by rules and laws and procedures. So that's the feeling that most of us have today. I mean, I sit there and write directly to Bob and looking at his face, looking at his reaction, somebody who's feeling like, can you just say the results so that we can get out of here? But you cannot say it out loud. You look at the lawyer who was so frustrated sitting there because of the way the judge was treating him. At some point in time, you think it was personal. I mean, you look at the prosecution, they're trying to do a good job, a diligent job, but they are challenged by the judge's actions and utterances or rulings. So it was a mixture of so many things in court today. Everybody was expecting that, at least for today, maybe Bob is not going to go home, but we will know what the results are. Because again, that's what the judge told us. I remember in Bundung, the judge said openly in court and pointing at Bob, if the DNA test is done and the results come negative, I will acquit and discharge. But if the results come positive that you are the father, I will make sure you go back to jail. And I remember on 3 occasions, this judge has been saying that. Now the last adjourned day, he said, okay, we needed to wait until the expert itself needed to come to court and open the results and read it out to the court. So today, really, everybody had this huge expectation that for once we will know something that we've all been thinking about. And yet again, with the process of open the first envelope, confirm, open the second envelope, confirm, open the last and third envelope, and the judge say, I'm adjourning the case. So you can imagine the feeling at the point in time. First and foremost, the accused person sitting there. Secondly, the defense team. Thirdly, us, the family members, loved ones, well-wishers. And of course, the mother who's at home waiting for that call to say, your son is not the father, the results is negative. And of course, all of you, I mean, at some point in time, you almost had a heart attack. You know, everybody trying to text, what is happening? What is happening? Please let me know. Please let me. The whole world is watching. And this particular one person is like, you know what? You all wait a little bit. I'm not done with your faces. I'm not done with the drama. Let's continue. So this is what has happened in court today. So now we have to wait yet another day. Thank God he hasn't given a long adjournment. The adjournment is tomorrow, right? Because again, the prosecution is pushing and say, my lord, this witness is here until we only have Wednesday and Thursday. He leaves on Friday. If we don't finish anything that we're doing, then we're challenged. There will be an issue because he has to leave and go back to work. So they push and push and push. He continued today. But this judge would have adjourned the case since after 2 o'clock prayers. Actually, before 2 o'clock prayers, they pushed and pushed and pushed. Then that's when he gave a 15-minute stand down for people to go and pray and use the bathroom and then come back, and we continue. And he made it categorically clear. He is bound to work within a certain period. Work closes at 4 o'clock, and he will not sit beyond 4 o'clock because that's not an official work hour. Plain blank, he said he will not. So we expect that by 4 o'clock, everything is going to end like he did today. So this is the situation. And I mean, blood pressures are rising. I just cannot describe this feeling. I sat there right in front of Bob, face to face, you know, and when I look at him, I cannot make any kind of gesture for him to feel like, oh, all is not good. I'm trying to keep a straight face. I'm trying to give that smile. The smile is fake. It was not real. But I just don't want somebody to just give up right in there, you know? And you can imagine that the lawyer at point in time was like, okay, well, you do whatever you want because you are in charge. This is the situation. We hope and pray because the results have already been opened. We hope and pray that tomorrow it will be read out and everybody knows what the results are. Then we take it from there. But if that doesn't happen, I don't know what else we're going to do, because again, this is the course. And again, you know, Bob is going to go back thinking like, what is happening to me? Why am I treated this way? Because he believes in his hearts of hearts that the results are going to be negative. Now, if it's not read out, it's like you're really denying him that a privilege to know, for it to be confirmed officially by the people that did the result. You want to think about everything in the world. Why? You know, I heard you were asking yesterday, why Bob? Why? Why are they doing this? Why is Bob's case so peculiar that they have to bend the rules? They have to go out of court procedures. They have to go out of court rules to decide this case when everything is guided by procedures and processes and rules. Why should this one be different? That is the big question that I want to know. I'm sure a lot of people want to know that question as well.
Thank you very much, Nene, Frida. As usual, the updates are very good. Thank you so much, so much. Appreciate it. So, Nene, we're going to run down the proceedings, today's proceedings. So first, so what basically happened was, of course, yesterday we had PW9 Francis Jatta was leading testimony. He was giving evidence, and the state this morning, and no, I'm just trying to get this. So he continued his evidence with the state leading. Am I correct? And then
Yes.
What we saw is that LS took on cross-examination. Now, after he has finished, I mean, and today, for the records, I need to say this. Today, in my opinion, and as a lawyer, it was a spectacular performance from a senior criminal defense lawyer, going all out to ensure that his client is defended to the hit. LS was phenomenal. LS was brave, and his line of questioning, every single question that was asked to the witness was a question that was meant to establish something. It was a question that was meant to poke holes into the testimony of the witness. It was a question that was meant to further prove and show the rationale of the defense not wanting to be part of this process at all. And Ellis was successful in doing that. I mean, 90% of all the answers that came from the witness were negative to Ellis's question. For example, Ellis asked, you mentioned that you transported these blood samples to Ghana. Were you present? I mean, remember, let us go back. Let us remember that this witness has already led evidence to and show the court and show the Gambian public that he is not just a witness, but he's a highly qualified witness, a master's degree holder, one of the forensic experts in the Gambia police force, a man of what should I say, of good standing, who has who really, based on the evidence that we saw in court, is a man that is very, very knowledgeable with regards his line of work, with regards his profession. So that has already been established. And therefore, when this same witness now was being cross-examined by the defense lawyer, Ellis was trying to establish something that, okay, you have already showed the court, you have already showcased that you are an expert in your own right, even though the state had mentioned that he was not an expert witness. They had said it was not an expert, he was not an expert witness. However, the foundation was laid whereby, from all indication from the proceedings in court, you could tell that he was an expert in the issue, or in the business, or in the line of forensics. Now, Ellis now posed questions to him. So I'll go through some of the questions. Some of the questions were like, were you there when the blood samples were collected? He said, no, I was not there. Were you there when the blood sample was collected from Bob? He said, no, I was not there. Were you there when the blood sample was collected from the baby? No. Were you there when the blood sample was collected from the boyfriend? No, I was not there. How can you tell us that what you carried to Ghana was actually the blood sample that was extracted from Bob? I don't know. I don't know. And then it begs the question, why were you coming to testify? Were you only coming to testify in court to tell us that you were a means of transportation, that you only transported what was given to you? So you don't know. What Ellis was trying to do in court was to poke holes into the process. Remember, I've always on my videos, I've been talking constantly about the process, that even though now the state is seeking to bring so much credibility on the process, but what Ellis was trying to establish was that the chain of custody, which I would get to later, because this was raised with when Ellis was doing the cross-examination of PW10, which was Superintendent Akan. Right? Is that the name? Aban, Superintendent Aban. And what Ellis was trying to establish was that the chain of custody does not start at depositing the blood samples wherever it was deposited in Ghana. The chain of custody started where and how the blood samples was collected. And what Ellis was trying to do, something that you would expect from all criminal lawyers, a good criminal lawyer, was to poke hole into the testimony of the prosecution, to say that, hey, wait a minute. This guy cannot even accurately testify whether the blood that he carried was human blood or animal blood. This guy cannot accurately testify whether the blood he was carrying was the blood of a pig or the blood of a goat or the blood of a sheep or the blood of Bob or the blood of Melvin. The blood samples of Melvin. This guy cannot tell. This was what Ellis was doing with all his power and might, with all his his expertise and skill. He was trying to poke holes so that, and what Ellis did was, in his line of questioning, he eventually forced the witness to acknowledge in open court, in a recorded testimony, that I do not know what I carried to Ghana. He forced the witness in open court to say to the court that I do not know, I am not aware, I don't know, I have been told that these are the content, this is what I'm transporting, but I cannot accurately tell you as a matter of fact, as a matter of certainty, that what I carried was indeed the blood samples of baby M, indeed the blood samples of Bob Keita, or indeed the blood samples of Mr. John, the boyfriend. He said it in open court. And Ellis was successful because in every serious jurisdiction, in every court proceedings, I mean, you can tell that this particular line of cross-examination was phenomenal. And it was enough to create doubts, to put doubts in the minds of every single person in that courtroom. Not only that, but to put doubts in the mind of the judge. This was the rationale for that line of questioning. And then Ellis went further. And that was when I was super, super, super happy, because, I mean, people who know, that I'm doing at the moment, I'm doing a Master's of Law in medical law. And so I was very interested in this when Ellis began to ask, can you tell me the temperature of the room where you were in? You said you were in transit for a number of hours. Can you describe the cooler box that the blood samples were in? What was the temperature in that cooler box? Was it regulated? You said you were in transit. When you got to Ghana, when did you hand over the blood samples? When the blood samples were being taken, was the place contaminated? Was the place clear? Were you there? Do you know? And of course, he answered in the negative to all of these questions. So we can accurately say, based on the line of questioning from Ellis, and based on the response from the witness, that the witness did not even know if that blood, taking into consideration the Gambian temperature, we don't know. The witness does not know. So you don't know if for example, the blood, by the time the whatever it is, the sample got to Ghana, it had been contaminated. It had been affected by the atmospheric temperature. We don't know. And this is what Ellis tried and succeeded in doing. And then the most beautiful part of it all was when Ellis began to ask questions. What information did you pass on to the authorities in Ghana? And of course, he mentioned that everything that he said was told by him, by the state. And he of course, said everything based on what was told, what was said to him by the state. Basically, he was carrying out, what he did was, he was a courier then, a courier, yeah? That's what he was, basically. He only transported these, and when he got to Ghana, he was told what he was asked to say, and that's what he did. So basically, even though this is a gentleman that is supposed to be an expert, this is a gentleman that is supposed to have expertise in forensics, this is a gentleman that should have the required knowledge and skill in these sort of things, understanding the chain of custody, understanding what is required of him, telling and saying in open court that I do not know. I simply took something, it was in a box, it was sealed, and I transported it to Ghana. This is what Ellis succeeded in doing. And Ellis succeeded in showcasing to the entire court and to anybody who was following this case that what was done, of course, remember, the initial objection of Ellis, the initial objection of the defense was the fact that the defense was not present when this process was starting. And the reason why the defense was not present is because the defense, of course, have objected to the initial order of the court, where the court was giving legitimacy to this process, where the courts was endorsing this process. And Ellis was saying, I cannot be part of this process. I have an appeal at the Court of Appeal. I have indicated to this court that I expected the court to stay the proceedings of this court, awaiting the determination of this matter. So therefore, Ellis was saying that we were not present. We were not there. At least, if we were not there and we are not present, I expect someone in the person of Mr. Jatta to be an independent person that can come to court and accurately testify as to the accuracy and veracity surrounding the collection of the blood samples for eventual DNA testing. I would have expected that when you come to court, you would demonstrate some sort of knowledge, some sort of knowledge base that was there from the foundation of this process. But no, what was established in court, and we must commend the witness, the state witness, PW9, for being truthful. He was truthful, he was honest. He said, I don't know, I was not part of it, and what he knows was what he said. Very truthful witness. So that's what we saw in cross-examination. Ellis establishing beyond a shadow of doubt and poking holes into the testimony of this particular witness. Another part that I found very, very, very interesting, and I said this to you today, I mentioned it to you. As a lawyer, when I saw everything that happened in court, and I saw the line of questioning by the defense counsel, and the holes, the holes that were poked into the witness, into the testimony of the witness, they were so huge. Trust me, I could fit in it. The holes, it was so big. So what I was expecting that the prosecution will decide to re-examine the witness. I thought the prosecution would re-examine the witness. They would try to do some damage control. That they would try to see how they could, the holes that were that big, to see how they could fill in the gap and get the holes to be a little smaller, to tighten it up a bit. This was what I was expecting. I was expecting that they would re-examine the witness after cross-examination from Ellis, try to establish and try to create a very finer atmosphere. But to my surprise, when Ellis finished his cross-examination, the state made an application to get the witness discharged. And they were done with the witness. They were finished with the witness. And for me, that left, I was happy. You know that. I kept telling you I was jumping. I kept, I was overjoyed. I mean, at some point during, I mean, people did not know this, but at some point, almost all the time I was driving. I was doing all my updates whilst I was driving. So I was on the motorway, and I'll be stopping, doing updates, driving, stopping. At some point, I got out of the car, and I was jumping just on that line, because when the state said they were discharging the witness, I knew, for me, the final moments of that exchange, the final moments, the atmosphere in that courtroom, what people were going to take home was Ellis hammering that point home, Ellis poking holes in the prosecution's case. For me, this was the take home. And trust me, I was happy. I was absolutely overjoyed with that line of questioning. We move. Then, of course, the PW9 was discharged. When PW9 was discharged, we then had PW10 take the stand. Of course, I think there was a short adjournment. And in fact, let me say this, that the presiding judge tried to get the matter adjourned. Or no, let me correct myself. It was the state that made an application. The state was making an application for a standout. But I think the state prosecutor, by a slip of tongue, asked for an adjournment. And I was like, what the heck? An adjournment now? No way. But then, of course, he corrected himself to say, no, I was not seeking for an adjournment. I wanted a standout. And I remember when I was doing the updates, I was like, Lajila, the way I got, that was what I typed on my Facebook updating. I was like, because when I got that the state prosecutor was asking for an adjournment, the nothing was read, the results, the DNA results was not open, it was still saying, I just went like Lajila, and how I said Lajila, that's how I typed Lajila, and that's how I posted Lajila. So after a while, I was like, oh my God, I just said Lajila live on Facebook, you understand? But that was it for me. But then, of course, it was quickly corrected that it was a slip of tongue, and what they meant was that they were asking for a stay of just a short adjournment to go over and get the forensic expert. So he was brought to the court from the Ministry of Justice, and then he took the stand, and of course he was sworn in, and he testified. He spoke about his credentials. He spoke about his vast experience that he has. He said where he came from, and that was basically what the law required. So the state was laying the foundation for the expert witness to tender to tender the evidence, the results through the expert witness. So they laid the foundation. It was beautifully done. To be honest, I must say this: we saw a different dynamics in the case. I mean, I don't mean to sugarcoat or butter anybody, but I just like to speak my truth and say it as it is. The state council, Patrick Gomez, was phenomenal. He brought some sort of, don't get me wrong. I know Alassane Jobe personally. I know him personally. I used to pick him up sometimes from when we were going to law school to drop him off. So I know him personally. He's a very quiet guy, very nice gentleman and stuff like that. But I just felt the way he handled the case, at some point, he became too emotionally involved in this matter. So, and I feel that that because of that emotional involvement in this matter, and not necessarily do I think it was done for any bad. I think it was just a young lawyer wanting to, this was his first major criminal trial as a state counsel. He wanted to ensure that he secures a conviction, and he's going to go all out to do it. This is what I saw, and this is what I understand. However, as a state prosecutor, as a you cannot be emotionally involved. So I felt after a while he was so emotionally involved, and then we saw what happened. You know, we saw the things did not go as expected. A lot of things were happening. It was becoming so heated, and becoming so personal. Then we saw the Ministry of Justice trying to bring in Counsel Kembengta. Of course, Kembengta came. He wasn't the favorite because people thought that with his expertise, with his level in the Ministry of Justice, that he was coming in to actually cement what everybody thought was some sort of conspiracy against Bob and in this trial. So he was not, the reception was not very cordial. And people were very they were not so receptive towards him. And we saw that the matter beginning, it started to turn into something else, because when he came to court, of course he was now demonstrating that, okay, you know what, this is how I saw it. I'm the fixer guy. I'm coming in. I'm coming to fix this. I'm going to do it my way. I did that. It didn't work well. And I must say the Ministry of Justice was very smart to just because the case was becoming very toxic. It was becoming very toxic. The attacks here and there. There's the xenophobic phrases that were being thrown. I didn't like it at all, and I didn't want to be part of it. But then, by some sheer wisdom, we saw the Ministry of Justice bring in Senior State Counsel Patrick Gomez. And to be quite honest, to be fair to this gentleman, he came and he sort of brought some sanity into the whole affair. I mean, today, so the reason why I'm saying all of this is that we saw when he even made an application. He wanted the DNA results to be read in open court. He wanted it to be done today. In fact, when the presiding judge was saying, was leaning towards an adjournment, the State Counsel Patrick Gomez was saying, no, let's get on with the business of the day. Let's just get everything done. We don't need to have another adjournment. We don't need to waste time. Let's just get on. Let us just do what we're here to do. I'm here to prosecute. I'm ready to prosecute. The defense is here to defend. They're ready to defend. Let's just go. Let's just go on. He even said to the judge, the expert witness is going back to Ghana on Friday. We cannot afford any delay. Let's get on with the business of the day. But for some strange, weird, inexplicable reason, we saw that the presiding judge was dragging his feet. I mean, the judge, okay, you could attribute that to people having different abilities, because that guy was slow. Justice S.M. Jallow was so slow in recording. I was shocked. He was very, very slow. Whether it was deliberate or not, he was slow. And it did not help matters when everybody was tense. Everybody was on edge. Everybody was on edge. Every single person in that courtroom was on edge, and that did not help things. So let's carry on. So of course, the forensic expert from Ghana came. The foundation was laid of about his his credentials, his experience, and things like that. And of course, the sealed envelopes. It was 3 different envelopes, sealed documentation, were now given to him. And with the permission of the court, he was asked to first look at these envelopes. Was the seal as it was when it left his office in Ghana? And he confirmed that, yes, it was done. He confirmed, he looked at it, and he said, yeah. He said, everything is as it is. And then the State Council, asked that he should open the results. And then he went on, he proceeded to open the first one. He broke the first seal, he opened it. He broke the second one, he opened it. He broke the third one, and he opened it. And there was when the State Council asked that the results be read in open court. And boy, oh boy, was I not tensed. Every single person I know that is following this case was on edge. Because for me, that was it. Because I have explained that this evidence is the state's evidence. It's not the court's. It has not gone through the admissibility test yet. It has not been found admissible yet. The defense had not, at that point, we did not even know what would be the position of the defense. Was the defense going to object? Yesterday in my analysis, I did mention that we would have to see how and what the defense would do. Because remember, I said the defense had already stated that they don't want to be part of this process. They don't want to give any sort of legitimacy to this process. So therefore, I expected that an objection would be made, because the defense would not just sit there and just, keep quiet. I expected an objection. But even before the objection was made, the judge, the judge said, no, hang on a minute. We're not going to read this result. Hang on, give me some time. He said, no, we're not going to read the results. Give me some time. We'll come back tomorrow and have this result read. Before, and of course, no, the state council got up, the defense got up. They were like, no, they were not having it. And then, of course, at that point, the defense got up. And then the defense made their objection. Because, of course, at that particular point in time, we all knew that it wasn't going to be read out. Then, for some strange reason, the procedures of the court, which is it looked as if today, it looked as if it was actually very unique to the court of Justice Jallow, because it's something that I haven't seen before. So the result was not read. Yet, the presiding judge was kind of pushing for the results to be admitted in evidence. So I was asking myself, as a lawyer, what was being admitted in evidence before the court? How can the court, how can a prosecutor push for the admission of an evidence that he has no knowledge about? And then what were you doing to the defense? How can the defense object to something they don't even know? Of course, the defense have to know what is the content of the document that you seek to tender, and that can inform the decision of the defense, so that it can guide their objection. That would help them to know what it is that they're being objected to. They're objecting to. But how the courts wanted the state they wanted to just admit this evidence without it being tested, without anybody knowing what was in there. The prosecutor at that point had no idea what was in the evidence, what was in the documentation. So it defied logic. It defied every rule of law. Every single procedural rule, it defied it. How would you admit something you don't know? Because at that point, only the expert witness knew what was the content of the sealed envelope. And then we saw the presiding judge, in some inexplicable, weird way, then said to the defense, okay, we can hear you now. So the defense got up and said, we're going to object. No, at first Ellis was hammering on section 175 of the CPC, of the procedure code, and he was saying that there is nothing like trial by ambush anymore. We have never been served with this document. We don't know what this document is. We don't know the document that the state is relying on. We don't know what the contents are. This is the rule. This is the rule. And Ellis was saying, this is the rule. You cannot come to your court and say we're going to bend the rules. No, this is the rules. And the rules stand. The rules stand. I need to know what it is that you are seeking to tender. Trial by ambush does not happen in our courts anymore. So I have not been served. I am not privy to this document. I don't know what's in the document. The rules say I should serve. I should be served. And then again, I mean, I find Justice Jallow to be a very distinguished man. I mean, he's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I've never met a person like that. I've never come across a person like Justice Jallow. He's a brilliant man. And then suddenly Justice Jallow said, okay, you know what? Come up to chambers. Y'all, come on, defense. Prosecution, come on, let's go. Let's go to chambers. You all can look at the results, and that will solve this matter. It's done. Just come on, let's go. And of course, you know, LS was like, come on, I'm not having this. I'm not going to be part of this circus. I mean, you know, I'm not going. I'm not being part. I'm not going. I don't want to know. I don't want to see. I am not going to give this process any legitimacy. None whatsoever. And there was when LS got upset, because LS got up and LS said to him, I am going to object. I am going to object to the admissibility of this document. And the judge, the presiding judge, got up and said to Ellis, if you object, I will overrule. I will overrule whatever objection. And to me, that was glaringly painful to watch and listen into. Because what the presiding judge was doing was telling Ellis prematurely that even before I hear your objection, I don't give a damn. I don't want to know. I don't give a hoot. I don't want to even have an inkling, an idea of what you're going to object to. But I am telling you, I am going to reject your objection. I'm going to overrule your objection. And to me, this was serious. Because ordinarily, you would hear the objection, you would listen to the merits and or demerits of the objection, and then you could rule. But you have already said to this gentleman, to this defense lawyer, who is already frustrated with everything that is going on in court, and you say to him, dude, I am going to overrule your objection. I am going to overrule you. I don't want to know what you're going to say. Sense or nonsense, I am going to overrule you. And Ellis was mad. Yes, the courts must be respected. The judges must be respected. Yes, they have the final say. It is their courts. However, the courts and the judges are guided by rules. They are guided by procedures. They are not there in abstract. They are there as officers of the court. They have laid down rules that they should follow. And Ellis got upset. He got mad. And he said to him, my lord, you know, I want you to put this on record. Let it go on record. This is a court of records. I want this to go on record that you have said to me that you will overrule my objection even before you hear my objection and know what is the content of my objection. And the judge said, no, I will not. He said, I will not record it. And Ellis had to turn and told the reporters, well, I want you guys to report this. I want you guys to record this. I want you guys to have this on notice and Ellis was like, but why won't you record it? He said, because I don't find it relevant. I don't find that line of discussion relevant, so I would not put it in the records. And Ellis was like, he lost it. He lost it. So there and then, he ordered, the judge again ordered that both parties should be served. Because remember, I want to state something. Not only was Ellis being shortchanged here, but the prosecution at that time in the proceedings were just as clueless as Ellis as to the contents of the DNA results. They were as clueless because they did not know what was in there. The results was with the expert witness. At some point, the judge even took the results to look at it, to read it, and the state prosecutor had to ask, my lord, can you give the results back to the witness so we can make an application to tender? Because the judge had already taken custody of the results even before it was tendered in evidence. He took it. And that was very, very brilliant of the state counsel, because he said to him, Judge, you know, my lord, can you take it back? Can you give it back to the witness? We would like to go follow procedures and make an application to tender this evidence. And that was when it was given back. So of course we know what happened. Eventually, it was determined that both the state and the prosecutors will be served with the results. And then tomorrow, the matter was adjourned again for tomorrow. and the presiding judge refused to allow for the DNA results to be read out in open court. Both parties were served, the defense was served, the prosecution was served, and the matter was adjourned to tomorrow 11 a.m., where again LS Camara, the defense, I would expect if if there are no surprises, that he would be asked to continue with his objection, and then the results would be read. Of course, the superintendent Aban, I don't pronounce it well, would take the stand. So this is what it is. So that was what transpired in court today, and of course, we were left again in a mood of suspense. But this was what happened. Now, I just want to mention something with regards to what happened today with PW9, the witness PW9 that testified. You see, I mentioned Nene, I mentioned in one of my analysis that the initial legal procedure, the legal foundation of securing the DNA testing was not properly done, in that the state should have, through an expert witness, come to court and get an order and establish how that DNA sampling was conducted, if they want to bring it at this part of the proceedings. However, I have always said that what I expected, that in the preliminary stages of investigation, that was when these things should have been done. And then what would have happened? The state would then get an expert witness to come to court to tender the documentation, the process as evidence of how the blood samples was collected. So you would have expected that you would have a lab technician of some high repute, at least, who would come to court, would explain the processes of how the DNA samples were collected. It would testify on how, on the atmospheric temperature that this was done in, would testify as to the environment of where these blood samples were collected. Were there no other blood samples around? Were there no other things that could contaminate or jeopardize the entire process? To show that the start of the chain of custody, which the chain of custody does not start only in Ghana, and again, let me say this, I felt that was an opportunity that the defense missed, because when the issue of the chain of custody came up, I thought that when Superintendent Aban mentioned that it was a seamless chain of custody, I thought that it was a brilliant opportunity for the defense to ask him, did your chain of custody start in the Gambia or in Ghana? And if he had responded that it started in the Gambia, then Ellis would further ask him, were you present? Can you tell us how and what knowledge you have of the chain of custody from the collection of samples? Because chain of custody starts from the collection of samples. And I want anybody who's watching my Facebook Live to go and research, to go and read. The chain of custody starts at the collection of samples. In fact, where a matter is in court, a chain of custody would ordinarily start with the application of the prosecution to go ahead and collect samples. So the whole legal process of collecting the samples, the individuals that the samples are being collected from, should ordinarily, give approval for this to be done, because you cannot force them. Where they choose not to give in to blood, to their blood being taken, then it could be used against them in the final determination of the suit. So the chain of custody starts from the collection of sample. So where the expert explained that and mentioned about the seamless chain of custody, I was expecting that was a brilliant opportunity for the defense to further ask him what really does he mean by the chain of custody, and could he tell the court about the processes of the chain of custody and what is the foundation of the chain of custody. But it wasn't done. But anyways, going back to my point, so that's where it ended for today. So the matter was adjourned to tomorrow. But again, I was wondering, what is the rationale for adjournment, and why would the results not be read in court? Because remember, the judge has now asked that these processes be served to different parties. So at that point, the defense would be privy to the information, the prosecution would be privy to the information, even the court would be privy to the information. At some point, it becomes a public document. And then you ask yourself, what was the rationale for not reading the results? Now, before I continue, I'm going to invite Nene. And Nene, we're going to do this. I'm going to do this in a way whereby we're going to bring the theories that are being bandied out there. So that, Nene, are you still with me?
I am here.
You've been rather quiet, so I was just checking if you're still there. So what we're going to do now, we are going to assess. First, I'm going to ask you to comment on my review of the proceedings of the trial. You maybe use about 2-3 minutes and comment on it, and then we're going to analyze the different theories as to why we feel that the matter took the turn it took today, and why the court pushed for the results not to be read in open court. We will discuss all the theories that are out there. We'll break it down, we'll analyze it, and we'll speak on both ends of the coin. So, but before that, I'll take your comment on the proceedings.
Thank you very much, Mel. You were spot on yet again. I mean, when you listen to Melvin speak, you almost do not have anything to say. But, you know, I'll still try to comment on everything that you have said. Brilliant analysis out there. You were really giving detailed submissions of everything that was happening in court. But one clarification I just wanted to make. Ellis had not cross-examined the expert from Ghana yet. We haven't gotten into that. It's still the state that is still cross-examining the witness, and we only stop at the time that the DNA test has been opened and everything else told. So I'm sure by the time we go tomorrow, hopefully that the results, the contents of the results will be revealed. Then the state will finish to allow LS to take it from there to be able to cross-examine the expert. That's PW10. That's Superintendent Edward Kofi Aban. But now going back to
thank you for that clarification. It was actually the state that led the witness, was leading the witness at that time. Yes, yes. The questioning, and he mentioned about the chain of custody. You're right. So
exactly. So going back to ASP Jatta, remember I said we were sitting there and everybody was so tense. And, you know, at one point in time, you could see people's faces. There's like, you know what, enough of ASP Jatta. We want the expert to come because that's where our interest is. You could see it in everybody's attitude and whatever, so eager for him to end and the other person comes. But for me sitting there, or anybody that understands court proceedings and examination and cross-examination and, you know, giving evidences in chief or whatever, I was really enjoying PW9 when Ellis was cross-examining him, because I sit there and after having so much knowledge and privy to information of everything that has happened in regards to the DNA, the samples, you know, the Jum, the Bob, the baby, the Fatungone, everything. I sit there and see how Ellis is really pinpointing all the loopholes for, let's say, a potential appeal, I sit there and say to myself, you know what, LS or whoever, do whatever you want to do. We get to the appeal court, we will smash you like a rotten banana that is being stepped on. Because LS did a very good job. I sat there and I felt so hopeful that go LS, go LS, go LS. Because I could see that was a clear-cut case if there will be a need for us to go to the appeal court. And he did a good job. And Ellis had that at the back of his mind, that, you know what, I don't know what those results hold, but if it should turn otherwise and there would be a need for us to go to the appeal court to appeal for any decision, this is good for us. And he did an absolutely brilliant job on that. I sat there and I was so hopeful. I had so much confidence instilled back in me. I mean, I had at any point in time lost hope or doubted. But you sit there and know that should we go to a court of appeal, it will be very, very easy for us because we've got all the evidences and all the foundation or the ground laid out, which was very, very good, honestly. So, I mean, now we're where we are. For me now, honestly, we are almost at the end. We are not.
Let's not get into that bit. Let's get into the theories that are being bandied around. So, for example, we saw the Independent News said that the results was positive. We saw what was being said around, again, that Honorable Sidin Jai has said that he was privy to the information and the results were positive. And then today, when the judge adjourned the matter, everybody online on social media, people were commenting that, you know what, it's done, it's over. It's because that Bob is the father. They know it's positive, and that's why they're adjourning the matter and da 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 da. And so this is one theory that's out there. Now, what do you make of this theory? I mean, to some extent, you would want to dignify these concerns. You know, you would want to say, maybe it's positive, because you could say, I mean, if it was negative, they should just allow the results to be read and the boy goes home. Why bring us again tomorrow? You know, and people were saying, some people are saying that, okay, they want reinforcement. You know, this is an opportunity for the states to come up with all the PIU officers in their gears and everything and ensure that once the report is read and it is said that Bob is the father, then obviously they can clamp down on whatever protest, whatever uprising that would ensue, would follow after. So this was a brilliant point of not reading the results, allowing time, and then allowing the state to set up and come and do what it is, you know. So this is one logical or plausible theory that's out there. What do you make of it?
And you're right about that, Mel. Let's say for me and you, if we did not know Bob and have so much privy to so much information, with all the theories out there, you'll be having so much, your pressure will be going up and down. Because when somebody comes out with some information, you almost want to believe it. Because when people come out, they tell you my sources, credible sources, or sources from, within, or sources from the top. Let's say, for example, the Sidin Jai thing, right? Sidin Jai is a very high-ranking official. And he's
the deputy speaker of the National Assembly of the Gambia, for those that are watching that do not know.
Yeah, so if somebody should tell you Sidin Jai said, you want to believe it, because you will think who arranged for the DNA test is the state, the Inspector General of Police, who is on the government, right? And they're the ones that linked up to this police force in Ghana. They wrote to them, they arranged, they sent their official. So you would think that this is under their custody and that the resource was addressed to the IGP. They had it for so many days before they handed it over to the AG chamber. You want to believe it, right? And then you come here, you have newspapers telling you it's positive, some say negative. In as much as you want to hear in your head that it's negative, but if you hear about the people that are coming up with information, you doubt yourself. You think, okay, which one should I believe? This one saying it, or should I follow my instincts and here and there? It's crazy, Mel. It's crazy. And the feeling, honestly, Li ñaanal ma ko suma non sa pour nga nekk sa situation bi di am pour am this roller coaster change of moods and feelings. It is horrible. It is horrible. And remember, you remember, I think it was the second day of the court in Bundung when we were going to court. You know, the first day it was kind of tense. The second day, you know, there was this reinforcement. At the prison in the morning, you know, I went there before they left and with Ellis. And when Bob came out of the cells to come all dressed nice and saw the prison guards, the Rayon GS, the paramilitary, oh my God, he just stopped and was like, what is going, at that point in time, he was like, you know, am I being convicted? Why is this reinforcement? Myself and Ellis had to tell him no, because of the situation yesterday, I'm sure it's all for your security and safety, right? So he was really like, what is going on? He helped me, sis, wahmalu hell, sis, bumana, wahmalu hell. We're like, nothing is happening. It's all for your security and the security of everybody that is coming. I see that on his face today again. While we were in court, all of a sudden, at the point of them opening the result, the first envelope, the second envelope, I saw reinforcement. Normally, when Bob is on the stand, you only have one guard behind him or on the other side, somewhere on the side. Everybody else is everywhere else. But all of a sudden, you saw everybody coming towards him, coming towards him. All of a sudden, you have almost 6 to 7 to 8 security people all around him. I sat right opposite him, and you could see his face, looking up at them, looking down, looking up at them, the face asking, okay, what is going on again? Because this is so not normal. Why are they all coming inside the courtroom and all of these ones coming right around me, just so much close to me? You see that feeling, everything going in your head, you sitting there as the victim saying, I know I haven't done it, but what is happening? You know, have they changed the result? Have they tampered with it? Are they conspiring? Are they setting me up? All these things running in your face. And of course, everybody in the court, you see the people's faces looking, okay, what is happening? What is going on? Can you read? I mean, Mel, the feeling, honestly, you cannot explain it. You have to feel it. You know, you have to feel it. You cannot sit there and know what is happening. It is a feeling that stinks to the core.
Now let's move on to the other theories out there. And what people are saying is obviously the results is negative. That it is negative, and therefore, I mean, this is a very far-fetched theory because I, as a person, I don't know how that would happen. But it's like, oh, these people, they want to change the result. The reason that they have adjourned is because they're going to change the result. And I've had so many calls, and people are calling me and asking, Mel, can they change the result? Can they not change the result? Can they not do something? They're going to alter it. They know it's negative. That's why they're doing this. And of course, they know that it's negative, and people are going to go out and they're going to say they're taking Bob to mile 2, and people are going to, there's going to be, people are going to be rioting and doing stuff. They're going to protest that Bob would not be taken. So they're going to prepare the ground tomorrow. They want to get a lot of reinforcement. They want to get people there. They want to get the security apparatus to be there with their riot gears. People are even saying they're going to have hot water cannons and everything that they're bringing in because they know that people are not going to allow for Bob Keita to be taken back to mile 2. So these are the theories out there. These are the theories out there. And I wanted to get your reaction to that as well.
It's scary, you know, just at the mention of the results would be positive for Bob, or it's negative.
No, we've looked at the results being positive. We've looked at the results being positive. Now what we're doing is we're looking at the results being negative. You tell me. I'm telling you the theories that are out there now. We've looked at the fact that, you know, what will happen, what we expect to happen if the results were to be, to analyze the theory of the results being positive. Now, before I even go to my next question, which I'll just put a pause on that. Put a pause on that. You tell me your reaction as a person on the ground. Tell me, based on the facts that you're aware of and what you have in hand, tell me, what do you think would happen if the results turn out to be positive and it is declared that Bob is the father of baby M? What do you expect to happen?
I mean, I will be disappointed that they have succeeded in what they wanted to do. I had told you yesterday, I have no iota of doubt that this cannot be Bob. I've told you that. because he had assured me 110% that it is not him, and I believe him. And I'll be very, very gutted and know that they have done everything else to succeed in what they wanted to do. I believe that they're trying to get a conviction. What come may, that's what they want. Because of their actions, their procedures, their processes, the way they are prosecuting, which is so abnormal from the normal way of prosecuting. And I believe that's what that's what they want to do. And if that turns out to be positive tomorrow, I said yesterday, it just goes back to affirm to us that roll your sleeves harder, the fight has not ended. Because
and the fight has just begun.
I mean, it has just begun, it hasn't ended, it has just begun, we are starting. Because Bob has told me that he is not relenting. He will go at any length to prove that he is not the one and he is not guilty but innocent. And I will continue to support him. Ellis also believes that if this thing is positive, and he will continue to be with Bob and fight even harder to ensure that we get the right result and Bob gets the fair and free trial that he deserves.
Thank you. Now tell me about these theories. So what do you make of these theories that the result is indeed negative and Bob is not the father? But again, they want to, you know, there's some conspiracy that they want to reinforce. They want people, because they're trying to keep Bob. They don't want to da. You tell me, what do you think about this theory? Before I ask my running up question to this particular issue, what do you think about this theory?
I mean, a lot of us, that's what we want to hear. A lot of us, that's what we want to hear. That is what Bob wants to hear tomorrow, that the results is negative. I would not be surprised, or I will not sit here and say that they will not do anything, because again, the results are in town, and thank God it has been open today, right? The expert is there. Yes, they have not announced what the results are, what is on that paper. But at this point in time, I want to believe that it is too late to do anything with that particular document that they opened in court today. Anything can happen, but I want to believe it's too late.
Let me put a pause on that. Let me state that for the public to know that it is not humanly possible, it is not spiritually possible, it is not scientifically possible for the results to be changed, because as we speak, LS Camara, the defense lawyer for Bob, has in his custody the results of the DNA test that was served on him by an order of the court.
You're right.
So let the public know that the result cannot be changed. The prosecutor in this matter, the prosecution, they are aware of the result. They know what it is. What they have in their custody is what the defense team have in their custody. The results cannot be changed. At this stage, the results cannot be changed. There cannot be any foul play. There can be only two plausible outcomes. That is, either Bob is declared the father of that child and the matter starts and continue, or Bob is declared not to be not the father of that child and the matter ends therein. I've said this day before yesterday, or was it yesterday? I've said that where the results are positive and Bob is the father of that child, this criminal trial has just begun. Because as we speak, everything that has happened thus far is the prosecution proving their case against Bob. The defense have not entered and have not opened their case yet. So where Bob would be declared the father, we are now going to see proper the other bit of this trial. And it is going to start in earnest, because I know absolutely beyond a shadow of doubt that Ellis will defend Bob Keita to the final end. I know that. And where Bob Keita is declared not to be the father of that child, we know obviously the state, their hands are tied. I have said this. Go back on records. I have said this so many times. Their hands are tied. They can do absolutely nothing other than enter a nully and get Bob to be discharged and acquitted by that court. They have absolutely nothing if it turns out that he's not the father. Now, you may carry on. You could go on. I just wanted to say that.
I mean, you're right.
Now tell me, Nene. I've asked you to give me your reaction on what you expect to happen where Bob is declared the father, and the results turn out positive. Nene, tell me what will happen in court tomorrow. What will you do? What will Gambians do? What will everyone do if it is declared in that courtroom tomorrow that Bob is not the father of that child? Tell me what you would do, and tell me what your expectations are.
I expect that the results will not be Bob tomorrow. And if indeed that happens, the results are read and say Bob is indeed not the father, then I will go to yet again know that our prayers has not failed us. It's been a long ride, Mel.
Don't cry. It's gonna be all right. Don't cry. Let's see Nene. Let's see Nene. This is the reality of what is happening. This is the reality, and I believe the public should know and understand and feel. Let's go back to Nene. Let's see Nene. Let people understand the gravity of what's going on. Let people understand the gravity of how stressful it has been. So I will ask my technical team to go back to Nene. Kindly go back to Nene, because this is the reality. This is what we have lived. This is what every single person has lived. People that care about Bob, people that support him, his family members, people that have seen how this matter have evolved before our very own eyes. This is the reality. This is what it has caused. This is the pain. The pain that it brings. Nobody is condoning anyone raping anyone. Nobody is condoning that. But what we are saying is that if an allegation of rape is made, it has to be credible, it has to be authentic, it has to be true. What we are saying and what we are objecting to is false accusations. We will not sit back to have it and see it take root in our society. No, it will not happen. It will not happen. And some of us are prepared to do anything. The reason why I have been here, I have been advocating, I have been sensitizing the public, I have been making people understand, for people to see every single thing that has been going on in this trial, is because I want people to understand and know that yes, justice must be fair. Justice must be explored in a positive, in a fair, in an upright and just manner. That is what is law. That is what is justice. That is what is justice. And I'm telling you this, and I said this to you yesterday, Nene. I said this to you yesterday, that I, Melville Robertson Roberts, I have said this yesterday. I've said this day before yesterday. I know beyond a shadow of that I'm ready to put my neck down. I'm ready to drop my last drop of blood. I know that Bob is not the father of that child. I've said this. As long as those test results were done in a transparent manner, and as long as the blood that was extracted from Bob and the blood that was extracted, or the DNA or the biological samples that was taken from that baby is really indeed of that baby, and the blood sample that was extracted was indeed the blood sample of Bob, I know beyond a shadow of doubt that Bob is not the father of that child. I've said this, and I will continue to say it. I will continue to say it. And I'm telling you this. I'm assuring you. I'm telling you. And people can put me on record. I'm saying this. I said it yesterday. I said it today. I said it the day before. Go back on all my live videos. I'm telling you that he is not the father of that child.
You're so right about that. Mel, you know I'm not any weak person. I have been arrested 3 times, put in the most heinous detention, and I did not shed tear one time during that predicament. But right now, I just sit here and think about our journey from when we started. That afternoon when Bob texted me what Zainabu sent to him. When Bob called me to tell me what Sainabu said to him on the phone, he still thought this lady was joking. Before you know it, he was at a police station. When we realized that this was serious, I remember looking for a lawyer. You go talk to a lawyer, they give you hope. The next minute, they tell you they cannot do it. It was difficult to get a lawyer to represent Bob because you had this activist calling every possible lawyer to say, don't take the case. We already have the evidences in our hands. He'd raped the girl. If you take the case, you're going to lose hands down. It was difficult.
You have made a very important point, and I'm going to ask this. You see, I have made a conscious decision not to even make reference to anything called feminist or activist. Because I don't even want to give them the prominence that they do not deserve. So I have made a conscious decision not to mention them and just continue my advocacy and continue to do what I'm going to do. But how do you think? What is in store? What would happen tomorrow? What would happen tomorrow in the Gambia for the feminist movement of the Gambia if it turns out that Bob is not the father of this child? What happens to the feminist movement of the Gambia? What happens to every single thing that these people have tried to do to destroy? These people went to the American embassy and asked them to cancel the visa of Bob. This is a guy that relies on the presumption of innocence, had not been found guilty yet. His contracts with the UNDP, I know this because, you know, I've assisted him a lot in this regard. His contracts have been cancelled. His business was crippled. It was brought to zero. It was brought to zero.
And this is why I feel so emotional right now. You asked me if the DNA test becomes negative. So now I think back. After all the efforts, the energy, the resources, the time that they invested in bringing somebody down, now the last evidence that they're relying on to keep him in jail for the rest of his life turns out to be negative and just shatter everything that they have done. I'm just thinking, should that happen tomorrow? Because that will just go back to validate and just goes back to vindicate us that they are so, they really don't believe in anything and they are not fighting a just cause. They fight selective justice. That's what they do. That's what this is going to do tomorrow. And I am praying with every bit of blood I have in me that the results turn out to be negative, to show that we were not fighting a lost battle. We were not fighting emptily. We were fighting because we believe in somebody that we know is credible and it's worth believing and it's worth standing by. That's what I want tomorrow to happen.
I have said this to everyone I speak to, and I've said this to you yourself, that when I take somebody as a friend and when I take a position, I stand by that position until I probably go to my grave. And regardless of what, I have taken a position of what I believe is. And I know he's not the father of that child. But in the event that for some unseen circumstance, based on what we all know, as per the collection of samples and the procedures that was employed in these collection and the DNA testing, it will not change my resolve. It will not change my position on Bob Keita. In fact, let me say this for the record. In fact, and I've said this before, if that were to happen, I will even stand by him more and love him more because it is now that his trial proper is about to start. It is now that it is about to start. It is now that he needs more support than ever before. So basically, let people not rest on their laurels. Let people go out. Let them go out tomorrow. Let them flood the courthouse tomorrow. Because I want everybody to be there and listen in as that result is read in open court. As I've always said, this case, the trial of Bob Keita and the state, it will revamp and change and revolutionize the entire justice delivery system in that country. Lessons have been learned. Mistakes have been made. But in the final analysis, every single Gambian, every single person, be it in the Gambia or outside the Gambia, that has been following this case, has learned something. I know you have become a better lawyer now. I always call you my lawyer. You're a better lawyer now because of this case.
Yeah.
You understand legal jargons. You have a semblance of idea of the procedures that are employed in court. You understand legal procedures. You understand the intricacies of court proceedings and litigation. A lot of Gambians are even more wiser. So a lot has been learned. The judiciary cannot sit and pretend as if everything is all right and that it's going to be business as usual. No, they can't. Nobody owns the judiciary. No one man commands and owns and can take ownership of the Gambian judiciary. And I'm sure everybody has seen, and every single one of them, from the Chief Justice come right down, they can see members of the Judicial Service Commission. They can see members of the Bar Association. They can see. Everybody can see, and everybody has learned something in this case. And I'm sure that decisions, steps, policies would come into place that would ensure that what we saw in the Bob Keita trial will never happen again in our nation's history. Never. I'm sure the Justice Ministry would sit down at the end of this trial to take stock, to reevaluate their positioning on indictments. Everything would be looked at. They will go through things with a fine-tooth comb. Every sector of government would learn. The legislature, people that are making our laws, they would know they're part of everything that's going on. They're part of the society. Even judges, they know, they're watching. They're watching. They're humans. Yes, when they go into that courtroom, that's the judge. They're lords in their courtroom, but outside the courtroom, they're humans like you and me. They have feelings. They have a conscience. They have empathy. So everybody has learned. You think people have not learned at the State House? They have learned. The very top echelon of government, they have learned. Were they not photographed, and were these photographs not spread all over social media? Did it not almost cause disrepute to the highest office of the land? Did they not attribute it to the First Lady, to the President, to connections? Everybody has learned. You think another criminal trial will happen where the state will just make a delegation and go to somebody's house? They would think twice. They would want to know who they're dealing with. The defense, you think the defense has not learned? You think the defense has not learned that nothing should be taken for granted? That yes, you can have the rules. Yes, you can have the procedures. Yes, you can be armed with the law. You can be a brilliant, phenomenal lawyer, but you can go to a court where things can go against you, where the law would not be applied in the way and manner that you have been taught and that you have believed. Everybody has learned. Everyone has learned. And I believe the Gambia would become better. I have always said that the brand of the Ministry of Justice, the integrity of the Ministry of Justice is on the balance, it's on the line. People are not happy in the way and manner they have conducted themselves in prosecuting this case. That is the actual fact. Would they sit back and say that is not true? That is up to them. But if they have consciences, which I believe they do, they would sit back and take stock. They're humans. They're not infallible. Every single person have learned. In this case, we know what is going on the other side. On the corresponding side, another suit is going on. Sainabou Mbye is on trial. When Sainabou Mbye was pushing and advocating for this trial to come, for a trial, for Bob to be charged, she never imagined or knew that one day a criminal indictment would be filed against her. Even before the completion of this matter. She never imagined, she never knew that concurrently a criminal trial will be running in our courts with her ex-husband, the father of her kids. Have we seen this happen before in our jurisdiction? No, it has never happened before. So you tell me that people have not learned a lesson in this case. You tell me that this case will ever be forgotten in our legal history. Even in our nation's history, will it ever be forgotten? It will not. So everybody has learned. Who would have said that a precedent used in the Bob Keita trial will be used to keep Sainabou in remand? Who would have said that a criminal, an authority that emanated from the Bob Keita trial will be used to deny Sainabou her freedom when she advocated passionately to ensure that the freedom of Bob Keita is curtailed? You tell me that people have not learned. You tell me that people have not learned. You think the feminist movement, they have not learned their lesson? You think they have not learned? You think they're going to go into a deep dive when they see a next case without actually scrutinizing and looking at everything? No, they will. They will. Because regardless of the outcome of this matter tomorrow, regardless of what is in that result, everybody has learned a lesson or two. Cry if you must. A lot of us have shed tears so many times over. But I can assure you that for every tear dropped, for every tear that one shed in the advocacy for this gentleman, in believing in his innocence, it will not go in vain. This is my belief. This is my belief. And hopefully people will wish for, or people would try to ensure that in their lives they have loved ones, they have friends that can stand by them through thick and thin and never turn their backs on them. So again, people are learning morally. This is what is expected of a friend. You've stood by him. I remember in the initial stages, I'm going to say this today for the first time. In the initial stages, when somebody came to you and told you, a person who is a friend of Bob came to you and told you that indeed Bob confessed to him that he was the father and that he did it. Well, not the father, but that he had something to do with the girl. You remember that conversation we had. And I know the person cannot tell and does not understand. I immediately I unfriended the person. I wanted never to associate with such a friend. With that type of person, I don't want to know you. The person added me again on Facebook. I unfriended him again. And then he added me for the last time, and I finally blocked his number or his Facebook account. I think only day before yesterday when I sat down, or 4 days ago, I decided, you know what, I blocked so many people. I'm just going to unblock everyone. You know, I don't really care. I just block them and ignore them. And that was when I unblocked him. But I do not want to be associated. And I told you this. And I said this to you. It's been years. And I said it to you. I don't want to be associated with such a person. I am going to take what Bob says to me. It is what I'm going to believe until otherwise proven. And my position is still the same. Over to you, Nene. Nene, are you still there? Hello, Nene?
I'm here. I remember that conversation very well, and I can remember, sit here, vividly remember. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Carry on, Nene.
Can you hear
Yes,
me?
we can hear you clearly. Go on.
Yeah, I say I remember very well when I went to mile 2 after that incident, and I told Bob, "Hey, guess what? This person had come to me and was cautioning me to be careful because you had told him this and this and this and this and this and this." He sat for at least 5 to 7 minutes, muted, and said to me, "Can you imagine if he goes and tell people the tendency of them believing him?" And he said, "I swear to my mother, sis, I never said it." And he said to me, "How can I tell somebody I did something that I haven't done?" So you see how people are. From people who are close to you, they started working against you from a very early stage. It's painful. And this is why I am so emotional. I know you've been called all kinds of names, Mel, just because of your standing by somebody you call a friend. I've been called everything else. Remember, not too long ago, I got an award, right? Can you imagine, in Africa? I was chosen by one of 20 people in the whole of Africa. One of 20, 54 states. I posted it. And what people could do, they flooded my timeline on Twitter, calling me rape apologist, calling me a disgrace for women, calling me all sorts of names. And I just ignore, I refuse to answer. Just because I said, I never stood anywhere and said that Bob did not do it, because I was not there. I don't sleep with Bob. We don't live in the same house. But all I say is, this is a brother, this is a friend, and I will stand by him, come what may, positive or negative. Nothing changes between me and him. If it's truly that he has done it, that is, if at all the process was so transparent and clear and credible, free and fair, and it comes out that he did it, I will condemn him in the presence of the whole world, but it does not change my relationship with him. But then I will stand by him throughout the process, because that's who I am. I'm a loyal ass girl. I don't betray my friendship. I don't betray people that I have a relationship with. But some people are offended by that. It was, they ask, I mean, they go after me in all areas, my job, my friends, my social media, anybody that they see me close to the person, they run to you. "Oh, you are close to Nene. Don't you know that Nene is supporting rape? Nene is supporting a rapist." They do it all the time. I don't respond because I don't want to dignify such nonsense with a response. I keep quiet. Mel, I can't wait for tomorrow. I sure can't wait for tomorrow for us to shame the devil. And I believe that's going to happen.
I believe so too. I believe so, absolutely. And on that note, I think we have said everything that has to be said. Oh, hello, Michael. Is that Michael? Is
It's
that
Kex, not Michael? Kex.
Hey, Kex, what's up?
So
Nene, get up, get up, get up.
Oh,
Let me talk to Kex for a second. Nene, get up. I need to talk to Kex for a second.
Okay, no problem. No problem, no problem. I sure can do that. Go ahead.
hey, Mel.
Mr. Kemeseng San, how are you, sir?
Sana.
How are you doing? You're right.
Pleasure.
You okay?
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
Okay, let me give us a word, Ket. I mean, you've heard. I'm sure you've heard everything. I'm not sure you've been following. You've heard everything we've been discussing. My position on everything that has happened so far. Tell us what is your take and how you feel about this whole situation. Definitely tomorrow. Definitely. I mean, even if the heavens fall tomorrow, we know that we're going to know the results. We're definitely going to know the results tomorrow. I mean, I don't think anybody's going to allow Justice SM Jallo to get away with it tomorrow. Tomorrow we will know the results. And how do you feel? How do you feel? You've been actively involved. You've been there. You've been reporting. You've been bringing to light and attention everything that has been going on in this matter. How do you feel? I mean, tomorrow could either be the start of everything that you've been doing, where Bob is found to be the father, and then of course the matter would just start. They would have to open the defense. There would have to be all the objections, or where he is declared that he's innocent. And then, of course, that would be the end of the journey for you. How do you feel, and what do you make of this case?
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you said, I've been here since we left the court. I've been in Nene's house. The life started in my presence. I had everything, the conversation, everything. Like, you cannot say better than what you have stated. It cannot be better said than this. Our position has ever been clear in regards to the issue of Bob. We believe in him since at the initial stage because we have a clear information, we have an in-depth information in regards to what actually transpired leading to this issue. So we are not absolutely somebody who are speculating on social media in terms of showing our support of Boubacar Keita, or we are doing it because of he's a friend to us, or like they call us rape apologists. This wasn't actually, but we are privy to the facts and we know what actually transpired, and this is why we have taken a step since at the initial stage that we will be there for him in respective of whatever is the outcome, whether he is found guilty or is innocent. The friendship will always be there. We'll support him. We know that maybe the judicial system has failed him, but if it goes through the right direction, we will see that Bob will be a free person who will be innocent about the whole allegation that is leveled against him. This has been our position, and we support it not based on friendship, but we know the facts and we know that he is not the actual person who did this. And we are still anticipating. We are in the process since the initial stage. We never turn our back against him, and we'll continue to support him irrespective of whatever is the outcome of the results tomorrow, whether he's guilty or he's actually innocent about the crime. We will be there for him as a brother and we'll support him. And like you said, it will never actually change the friendship that we have with God. But we have a clear conviction of actually the whole issue. We are disappointed since at the initial stage with the procedural matters that have happened in terms of the case, the delayance, and so many things. And we saw our frustration on social media and other platforms. And we have received insults. We have received personal attacks. We went up to an extent that we have friends that we lost during this course, because they term us as rape apologists and they call us names. People even went further to go into our private text messages inbox and insulting us, or even talking to friends and telling them that this person is a bad person. You can't associate with them. If you associate with them, we will definitely befriend you. And all these things has happened. But somebody has to be guided by your consent, and I think all of us in our team Bob, we are guided by our consent, because our consent was very clear that we know the cause that we were fighting. Are you getting me?
Yes, I'm getting you.
Are you getting me, Melvin?
Yes, carry on. Yes, I'm getting you.
So our concept was very clear that we are fighting a genuine cause, and that is not because of only Bob, but we are fighting. Yeah, we are not just fighting for Bob, but we are fighting for something that might haunt you or might haunt me, because if the system that is governing us, that should at least what we call that should make sure that justice prevail in the country. And we are seeing that it's bent in terms of serving justice, and we all fall our hands together. Tomorrow nobody knows who will be the victim. So our fight was not actually for Bob as a person, but this fight is to make sure that the justice system do the right thing, and by making sure that the accused person are given their right of assuming innocent until they are proven by a competent court of law, whilst those who are accused to be the victims who also are given the fair trial and the fair hearing, and whoever is involved in the case will face the full force of the law. And this has ever been our position. And this is why when we heard that baby Muhammad was actually passed away and the manner it was narrated, we took it upon ourselves as a concerned citizen, not as somebody who was supporting Bob, and we walked to the police station with Nene and the other people. We went there and lodged a formal complaint, and so many things that some of you guys have done in terms of making sure that justice, you take your time, you could have used your resources and your time not to come on Facebook, like educate us and tell us what are these things. And but we make sure that we did all those things, just to make sure that justice prevailed irrespective of what happens, because justice doesn't mean that Bob has to be free. Justice means that, whoever happens to be the, who is found wanting against the law will take its course. This has been our position ever since, and we make sure that we stood by this. So we are here almost at the tail end of the case, or we will start the case afresh, whereby the defense, because this is the only last hurdle of the defense in terms of presenting their DNA results, and whatever the results will be, they will rely on that, in terms of their prosecution. So if they have what we call positive results, then they will close their case and defense will open their case, where we'll have the opportunity for defense to call witness or even give opportunity to Bob for the first time to speak to the Gambian people, like actually what transpired, because this has not been given to Bob since this case started. He have never spoken for us to hear his side of the story. And if it happens otherwise, then know that we might not even wait for judgment, because I can't wait at the court room when they said that, okay, the results is sealed, and the doctor announced, Kofi Aban announced that it is negative. I think that will be the end of the case, because the judge cannot control me. Maybe I'll be arrested by the police officer for contempt of court, because this has been a long battle that we have been fighting for, and we believe that we are in the right course. And definitely tomorrow we will see what will be the outcome. But irrespective of what happens, we will take it as faith, and we'll continue fighting for justice for every Gambian, irrespective of what happened. And you have seen, our position has never been on one side. You could see us in various issues, like what has been happening. We are fighting for any human right violation in this country, any injustice that is happening in this country. We don't just only look at side because, okay, she's part of my gender, so whatever happens, whether it's true or not, we will support this person because we belong to the same gender. That's not what we stand for. We have been here supporting our fellow women in terms of when they are found their right has been violated. We also stood by our fellow men, all men. For us, there's no discrimination, and we'll continue to do this for us to have a better Gambia. And for us, we will never relent in respective of what happened. And those who think that we are against them tomorrow, if they happen to be the victim, we will take the same position as we take the same position in regards to Bob case, to make sure that justice prevails and the justice is being served and see to be served. This has been our position, and I'm so excited. I'm so happy about the whole process that the things has now changed. We are having at the matter is been like the court is giving us at least a shorter date. Like today we were there, and we are going back there tomorrow, and we might go there Thursday, Friday again. So that shows you that we are having the speedy trial that we have been advocating for since at the initial stage of the case. So we are so grateful, and we are fine, and the mood is still the same as we started it.
Thank you so much, Kex. Thank you so much, Kexana. You have been amazing. You have been phenomenal. Trust me. Thank you so much. Like I say, I'm not in the Gambia, and of course I rely on you and Nene and other people that are on the ground. But we have collectively taken a position from the very start. It didn't start now. It was years ago. And like I tell people, it was, it became fashionable now, for a lot of stuff. But we know when things were hard and when things were difficult, we know and understand how it all started. So that's a story for another day. We will know tomorrow. Definitely, we will know tomorrow where we stand. And it's either we're going to have a virtual party here, or we are going to start and fasten our seatbelts and be ready to ensure that justice prevails, and that he opens his defense, and that at the end of the day, a fair dispensation of justice is done, and he's accorded a fair trial. And if he's guilty, let him face the law. If he's innocent, let him go home as a free man, be joined again with his family, and to live his life as is expected. So thank you very, very much, Kex, and thank you so much, Nene. I'll just let you give a closing remarks, Kex, and then I'll get Nene to say something to close, and then
Thank you.
I'll close the program.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, and thank you to all the wonderful viewers that are here. Thank you very much, and I'm so grateful. And I'm saying thank you very much to all the wonderful viewers that are here watching. I know all of us actually take our time, contributed one way or the other in regards to this case. And this is a case that will determine how our judicial system will be in the next future going ahead, and this will also determine how poor our judicial system is. So anybody who contributed towards this cause, you are doing it not for you, but generations that are not yet born. This is what you are doing for them, and we applaud everybody and we thank everybody who have contributed one way or the other in terms of make sure that justice prevail, not taking side, but you make sure that justice prevail. In this case, we say thank you very much. We are so grateful, and together all of us will build a better Gambia that all of us can be proud of. And we can say that, okay, we can allow our children will inherit a Gambia that they can be proud of. But if we fail to do that, then we have failed a generation that are yet to be born, and history will indict us. History will ask us why we fail our generation to build a Gambia that all of us can be proud of. So this is a tax to every Gambian, that we have a tax burden in our head after the change of government. We should make sure that our children inherit a Gambia that is better than the Gambia that we inherited. And we cannot do that when we are divided. We cannot do that when we are not speaking true to each other, irrespective of what happened. We have a Gambia, and the Gambia is bigger than each and every one of us, in respective of our political difference, in respective of our religion, in respective of our tribes and everything. Those are secondary matters. They are personal matters. Let them put them in personal, put them secondary matters and concentrate on national issues. When it comes to national issues, know that those are personal issues. But when it comes to the issue of the state, let's be united as one Gambia, brothers and sisters, so that we will save the future of this country. Failure to do, we owe our children's apology. And this is what I have for the Gambian people. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Kex. Thank you. Can I have Nene just say a few words? Thank you, Kex. God bless. Thank you. Nene, can I just have Nene say a few words? Nene.
Yes. I mean, for me, honestly, what do I say? We are here and looking forward to tomorrow. But let me just use this opportunity to thank everybody yet again. I cannot, ever stop thanking the people. The support is overwhelming. The solidarity is overwhelming. This is what we expect of us as Gambians. When bad happens, we detest it. But then when people are treated unjustly, we all stand together and condemn it. Today it's Bob. You don't know who will be tomorrow. It could be you. It could be that person who is condemning Bob or calling Bob names, or even chastising Nanny for standing with Bob. I have been taught that when you love for two reasons, in good times and in bad times, because either could happen. And when I met Bob, I saw the honesty in him. I saw the seriousness as a young boy who's really striving to be great in life and be independent, not be dependent or following other things, just wanting to do things. I thought, this is somebody I want to call my brother. And since that day, I held him as a brother. I love Bob in good times. I love him in bad times. Come what may, he is still my brother. And I pray that whatever the results will be, let it be something that God will destine, and it will be the beginning of great things for him in his life. He is strong. Sometimes I want to break down, and Bob will be the one to say, sis, will deflulu why? Sis, your time is stronger why? So I cannot do otherwise but be strong for him and stand by him. Those days that we were crying is over. That was when we were struggling to raise money to pay lawyers. That was when we were struggling, going around every day trying to look for lawyers to take this case, and nobody believed in the cause. That's when we will always sit and cry. We're not crying anymore. We want to be strong and fight. So thank you, everybody, and thank you. So for me, I always tell you, I'm not going to pray for you. Thank you, I'll pray for you. You are a brother, you are confident, you are the biggest cheerleader one could ever have. You are the biggest loyalist anybody could ever ask for. I will not exchange you for anything else. Yo, sumala amuton damala kreye. dama la draw
Oh,
ba
you're
nekk
making me
Melvin
emotional
pour nga
now.
mun a taxaw because with you to have anybody by their sides, honestly, they will not do anything but make it and stand strong. So thank you very much. And I am praying to be able to sleep, honestly, so that I can go back to court tomorrow looking fresh and having that face that Bob can look at and still have hope and not look at me and lose hope. That's what I pray. So this sakurek ni ñaan parce que ñaan moom moo nekk lu nekk na nit ñi gën di ñaan mu ngi jógee fu nekk. I meet people in the street, they tell me, oh, I saw you in Bob's case. I feel sorry for him. I'm praying for him. We say amen to all the prayers, and we pray that all the prayers, regardless of where they're coming from, may it be accepted to God, may it be pleasing to God, and may it be beneficial to everybody. That, like you say, we all get out of this as soon as possible and let it be a learning curve, that it will be a deterrent to other people if they think about doing such or even venturing into such actions, because they think about and say, Bob got out of it, so therefore I don't want to be there, because it was painful, it was difficult, it was a long, hard road. On Saturday on my birthday, when I was going, it was Sis. So birthday be Yahuna. I was like, no, they didn't go the fight. It was like, no, I'm bored. I am so bored. I miss my work. He said, I miss my work. So can you imagine film nekasa muge halat ligayam, because he has a career and he loved it and he was doing it to the best of his ability. I don't say he was the best in what he was doing, but he was one of the best. And anybody that he encounters will always want to go back to him. He is in mile 2, but people push so hard for the business to keep continuing because they miss Bob's services, they miss Bob's thing. This is who he is. So I pray that tomorrow will be a day that we all were looking forward to. So thank you very much, Mel, and I pray for peace for everybody and for us as well. Thank you, Mel.
Thank you. So you're getting me emotional now. Thank you very much for everything. The feeling is mutual. You're my sister. You're my confidant. I trust you to bits, and you know that. We could talk to you about anything, and just want to say thank you for everything, and just say thank you to everybody that's watching, and let's all pray. It's almost over. We will either know what's going on tomorrow, whether we're starting this all over again, or whether it's gonna all end. So thank you all so much, and I wish you all the best. All I pray for is someday, when we all look back, we will always find, everybody will find a friend that could stand for them in good times and in bad times. And because that's what the world is all about. It's about having a circle, and a circle that you believe in, and a circle that you trust in. So thank you very much, and thanks everyone. Bye.
Thanks.
Gambia we tamala the fi amamut fenen sama mamda na mo wanan jamareka war Nyapa polo don bena can dunya mona dara Reo me sunyu reula Nyapa and the joke Nunglenya Jama sasa sunyu reu Sapante te japante Moi sunyu waref Burialenyo gelenyar Nasama sunyu digante Nyeplamangko te dono ben lolu Lafi mami bayu bon Nyeplamangko te dono ben Gijamu Gambia
Jotali makas bilel tanghal masindal biway Bonyi be nga nuyul masa papa way Oyal ma aji wako mata nena awane Ñu magal tobas kiji way Genaaw elek Noel su passé ba ñu tek ci ñaari semaine sang marila tam Lolu lañ fi xam benn baat lolu lañu am juróom ñaari nit ci benn bool lolu lañu xam arjodo ga tambi nang nuyul masa papa ankira jam bul ma jam jama lañ fi am amut xette amut diine lolu lañ fi bàyyi woon dama ne lolu lañ fi bàyyi woon
Mareko. Punya papolo don bena yang dunya muna dara. Na reu mi sunyu reu la nyeba anda jo. Yung lenyan, jama sasa sunyu reu. Sopante te japante, moi sunyu arre. We are you, yelenyan, kasama sunyu digante. Yepamang puti dono pena lolo, love your mommy by your born. Yepamang puti dono pena gitamo Gambia. Yulenyan, jama sasa sunyu reu. Sopante te japante, moi sunyu arre. We are you, yelenyan, kasama sunyu digante. Yepamang puti dono pena lolo, love your mommy by your born. Yepamang puti dono pena gitamo Gambia.